Okay, check it. Back in 1994, punk rock went mainstream when Green Day did this whole brain stew thing, and that opened the floodgates for a whole bunch of punk rock bands that were lying in wait in the underground. And you know who was actually the floodgates? You know who was the controller of those gates? Do you know who was the gatekeeper of the underground punk rock bands to get like notoriety or whatever? That would be Brett Gurewitz of Epitaph Records and Bad Religion. He was the tastemaker for punk rock in the early 90s. And the way that he did it was putting out these really long, really cheap compilations called Punk O Rama. This was a lot of people's introduction into the punk rock world and opened the doors for so many bands. Gave all these bands like a legitimate career. But just like all things, it has a life cycle. There are peaks, there are valleys, and ultimately there is a death. Hey ladies, Dan Frampton here, and today we're going to talk about the day that Punk O Rama died. So it's 1995 and the first one drops. It looks like this, it is totally ugly, it is such an assault on all the senses, but it gets your attention. Punk O Rama, right there in the middle, 10-foot pole, total chaos, Pennywise, Offspring, RKL, Down by Law, NOFX, RANCID, Gashoffer, Bad Religion, SNFU. And the thing about this record over here is all the bands have multiple songs. I wouldn't say all the bands, I'd say the biggest bands have multiple songs. That would be a part of the formula that they would adjust going forward. And the next year when they put out Punk O Rama 2, we got some debuts by the Descendants with the song Coffee Mug. Now this was huge for punk at the time. The Descendants coming back to put out new music, not just to do like a legacy tour, they're putting out new music. And here's Punk O Rama being like, here, listen to this song Coffee Mug. And in my opinion, that is an amazing song because it actually was my introduction into the whole Descendants world and everything that they did for the genre. And this compilation over here would see a whole bunch more debuts of bands that would become regulars on the series, like Pulley, Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, Millencolin, Voodoo Glow Skulls, New Bomb Turks, and many, many more. The great thing about these compilations was that they were long. They were cheap and they were easy to find. So I do think I should be giving you guys ratings on these things just to give you an idea of what I think about them overall. And I gotta say the first one, I'm only giving 1 out of 2 stars because like the Offspring are on here with 2 songs, just muddying up the place. Don't like it. Number 2 is getting 2 full points. It is the best version of this compilation so far. And you gotta love to see artists actually getting paid for commissions for artwork. This is an amazing thing. And not only is it amazing, it's iconic. Every time I think of the Punk O Rama series, it's this P&E that I think about. But then we're moving on to number 3, which also has an amazing iconic cover. And we're gonna see debuts from bands like Dwarves, All, and Bouncing Souls. And the lovely thing that Punk O Rama does is it introduces classics of the genre to people that are new to the genre. On number 2, TSOL was on this thing, and on number 3, we have Agnostic Front and The Cramps. Thank you for showing me Agnostic Front and The Cramps along with the Descendants. God damn, an amazing compilation over here that did wonders for a whole genre, a whole group of people. It isn't really the strongest sequence of songs. It is a little bit of a slog. I am only giving this 1 point. But as we move on to Punk O Rama 4, straight out of the pit, we get this kid that's all like bloodied and bruised up. And for the first time, we got like a photorealistic photograph on the front cover, which is okay. I mean, I think it does take away from it a little bit. I like to see artwork on the cover, but a photograph is okay too. And that wouldn't be the only change that would come on number 4. On Punk O Rama 4, we have Tom Waits on this thing with the song Big in Japan. And it actually makes sense. Tom Waits is on that label Anti, and Anti definitely has a relationship with Epitaph. And that relationship is Anti is the sister label to Epitaph. But it's here in 1999 we start to see that Punk O Rama is not afraid to kind of not be so punk all the time. We might do some other things. We might throw you a curveball and it might hit you square in the face. We see a debut from Bombshell Rocks and Refused on this thing. Still, it's not my favorite version of this compilation, 1 point. And then we move on to number 5. 5. Now, number 5 might be most people's number 1 pick when it comes to best punk O Rama, but it's not quite mine. On this one, we get Refused and the International Noise Conspiracy, and neither of them are doing punk rock. The Refused track that's on this is Refused Are Fucking Dead, but it's like a techno remix or whatever. And the International Noise Conspiracy is just like an indie dance band or whatever. So now we're like, okay, you're starting to not be so punk O Rama, but you're introducing me to things that I kind of like, so I'll give you a pass. You get a nice little mix of hardcore on here too, with H2O and Madball back to back. Great pairing, 28 songs in total, and the Beatsteaks make a debut on this thing. It's post-grunge perfection, but right now, on number 5, we are genre bouncing. I'm giving it 1 point, it's not dead yet. But here comes number 6. Now, number 6 is my favorite in the series, almost by a long shot. It is the most nostalgic for me, and the artwork on it is some of my favorite artwork on any of these. If you're not familiar with what you're seeing here, okay, this is a monolith, this big flat rock or whatever, and in that movie Space Odyssey, a monolith comes down and hits the ground, and that is the instance that sets forth evolution. That's what gets the monkeys thinking about tools and making things and fighting over things, you know? But what I love about the Punk O Rama 6 version of it is the monolith came down and taught these monkeys how to slam dance. Look at them skanking and just ripping shit over here. The last record had us seeing Refused and the International Noise Conspiracy on the same record. This one sees the Descendants and All on the same compilation. And All actually performs the better song with She Broke My Dick. She goddamn broke my dick. 23 songs, all bops, all memorable, no bad songs. Score 2. But then they set the bar so high and started to phone it in on number 7. Now on number 7, it still is Punk O Rama. They still are just doing punk songs with nods to other things, okay? But it's just poorly sequenced and curated. All these bands have much better songs from this era. This just seems like they were like, okay, what are the songs that people haven't listened to a lot? And they put all those on here, but there was a reason people didn't listen to those songs, is because those weren't the greatest songs. So they packed this compilation full of mid. It just feels haphazard and like an obligatory drop. Like, oh, I guess it's time for Punk O Rama again. Let's throw this out to the masses. And to me, this is 0 stars, and the year 2002 is the year, and June 25th is the day of that year that Punk O Rama died. But that didn't stop them. They seemed to know that 7 killed them. So on Punk O Rama 8, it's just so long. This is the most bloated batch of songs yet. And now we're getting hip hop and indie and trance. It's just all over the place right now. Such a potpourri of music. It isn't Punk O Rama 8, it's like Music O Rama 8. I don't know. And they're just cherry picking songs from all over the timeline. It is such a chaotic mess. But there is still a little bit of effort there, so I will give it the singular point, but it's still dead. And moving on to the next one, Punk O Rama 9, is when you can tell that they just do not care anymore. This is not Punk O Rama anymore, and I guess they know that that whole skate punk, pop punk sound is starting to dwindle by 2004. People want kind of emo flavored, post-hardcore flavored punk rock music. And that's not really Epitaph's bread and butter, okay? But they really wanted it to be. And by the time they got to 10, they were just so far off the tracks. They had no idea what they're doing. And I guess they were just waiting until they got to 10 so they could end it at like a clean number. So you can be like, Punk O Rama 10 or whatever, 10-year anniversary of this stuff. But that's not even where this ends. They thought the next year, if they just changed the name and the look of it to Unsound, that would actually sell stuff. But no, and it looks just like it sounds. It's got the worst of the worst emo, the worst of the worst post-hardcore. It's saved by a little bit of Converge and Danger Doom, but even those two acts don't feel like they belong on a compilation like this. It still has some of the Punk O Rama DNA in there. Some of those same bands are still on here, but now we got like the Story of the Year or whatever, and bands like Escape the Fate and Matchbook Romance. So not only did it die, it turned into the absolute worst version of itself it possibly could. I bet Finn McKenty really loves Unsound. He's like, this is where they made a really good decision. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell if you're cool as hell, and until my next upload, you can watch another upload.